Good morning again. This is a quick walkthrough some of the new features, or rather a change in the fonts that we use in the latest version, PD Pro 7. Quick flashback, this one here is PD Pro 5. One thing you can see here is what it looks like inside the brush settings. That's what you see here. Click on this settings button and you can read all of the elements right here. Okay, now let's have a look at PD Pro 6. Right, so here I've just installed PD Howler 6 and I'm going to the settings. And oh my god, look at that, there are some words missing. This should say random pause as in position, random size, random angle, and it's not readable. Well, one thing we did is we switched to a different font. I'm sorry. But that font happens to not exist on this particular computer. And that font is called the Arial Narrow font. It doesn't come with Windows by default. It does come with a couple of programs. Microsoft Office includes it, the full version. Probably not the free starter edition. OpenOffice doesn't include it. There's a couple of programs out there that do include it, and you can read all about it in our FAQ page. So I guess this tutorial is a quick walk through the FAQ, and in particular the problems with the Arial Narrow font that you might encounter if you have version 6 of PD Pro and don't have any of the programs that include the Arial Narrow font. We are still debating as to whether we can fix that somehow, but here are some workarounds in the meantime. So let's have a look at not at this. Let's have a look at the FAQ. Where do you go to the frequently asked questions? You can click here, Project Dog Waffle domain access, or right here, overview. Click on that, and then along the left side you'll see a couple of shortcut links, and of course at the top here the scoop gives you the FAQ link. And in the FAQ, frequently asked questions, or in French, la foire aux questions, you'll see, is the Arial Narrow font missing on your system? This is how you will know it. Okay, this is what you observe. If it is missing, is that you will see some of the elements missing in the text. That might be in other places too. For instance, here under the settings, you might see the text a little bit big and partly clipped off in some cases. Where did I see that? I think when we actually change it, when we change the size, like we resize, resample, right there, they're constrained or constrain, one or two letters missing. Okay, and that's because the font that the system chooses here, or the program gets to choose, is not the one we wanted it, because we don't have it on this particular system. We're trying to use the Arial Narrow and it ain't there. How do you know that, by the way? Well, you can go to the text tool or any word processor. You go into a text editing mode and you have a fonts control, and when you look at the fonts control, if you do not see the Arial Narrow font, well, that means you don't have it. I mean, you may find the Arial font right here, this one, but you won't see the Arial Narrow. If that is not there, it's missing on your system. So you may have different styles of the Arial font, but the Arial Narrow is definitely gone and missing, and that's what's causing this problem here. We don't have the font we would like to use. So back to this article in the FAQ. I encourage you to read that. There are a couple of things you can do about it with regard to replacing the font. You can find that the font is owned or copyrighted by Monotype, and there are a couple of ways where you can get it. Legitimately is what we emphasize and focus and recommend. You can actually buy the font, the right to use it, through Microsoft. They do also include it with some of their licensed programs, quite a number of them. So if you've always wanted to perhaps buy the baseball game, or Encarta, Excel, Expedia, Sheets and Trips, and Front Page Greetings, there's a number of in which the Arial Narrow font is actually licensed and included. So that would be a fairly good way to do that, because you get two things for the price of one, right? You buy one product and you also get to fully utilize Dog Waffle with regard to the use of the Arial Narrow font. There are other solutions. One is that you can upgrade to version 7 that's coming out soon. As of today, it's not out yet. We are in release candidate 7 mode right now, and we did switch to a different font in version 7. We are still debating as to whether we can make that change also in PD Pro 6. Haven't seen really a whole lot of demand for that. There are other solutions after all. We don't know if we can recommend them. We just observed their existence. There are some websites that may have perhaps licensed the right to use and to freely distribute the font, but that is something that you will have to determine as to whether it is legitimate or not. For instance, fontzone.net is listing that font, but we don't know if it is legitimate or not. We are still trying to find out at this point. So handle with care, and be aware that you may also, whenever you download something from a website, you will want to check it for viruses and malware and spyware. Even a font could potentially harbor something that you didn't really want. So make sure you scan it with your latest updated antivirus, and perhaps with 2 or 3 of them. And also go out into the web, the cloud, and search for clues as to whether this particular site or that particular site where you've seen the font is legitimate or not. We would not want you to get in trouble because of downloading a font from a illegitimate website. So that said, let's see what else we can do about that. So here we are. This is version 6, and we would like to fix this here. I'm going to postpone the fixing of this inside of version 6. Actually, no, I will do that. I will fix it for version 6. Let's do that. So here's one approach, and that is if you get to download a font such as the Arial Narrow font. This particular font is a TrueType font, and we've downloaded it. So one thing that you can do is, if let's say you've purchased it and you're about to, after downloading it, you're about to install it, one thing you can do is first of all go and preview it. And when you preview it, you see the quick brown fox that jumps over the lazy dog. Of course, a very classical sentence that uses every single letter of the English alphabet so that we can see that nothing is missing. And then we can also print it, or we can go and install it. There's a couple of other ways to do it, but this is a good way. You can see, you can verify the font name is Arial Narrow. And some other characteristics, which version and so on. So go ahead and install that, and then let's run Dog Waffle again, version 6, and see if that made any change. And here we are back in PD Howler, and double check here, this is indeed the extreme performance Howler version. It is version 1 because it's not saying so. And let's see what we got here. Yep, now under the brush settings we do have the fonts properly displayed. Alright, so that fixed it. It was a matter of getting the TrueType font, the Arial Narrow font, added. And let's see what happens when we are in the text tool here, and we go to the font selection. We should have, in addition, so in the whole group of Arial, we should now also have a narrow category, and there they are. There is now the narrow oblique, narrow bold, and so on. So that is what we needed. We needed the narrow font, the narrow version of the Arial font. And now in version 7 you don't need that anymore. That is something that we changed, the dependency on that font. Many of you may not have noticed that dependency because you typically may have Microsoft Office or commercial versions of other programs that do include a licensed copy of the Arial Narrow font. But if you ever observed the problem, 6 Howler, also known as PD Howler 1, then that may be all you need is to find either an upgrade to version 7 or a legitimate copy of the Arial Narrow font through the purchase of another program, or through well, whatever other means there are that allow you to do so. So here we go back with the last one. Here's the brush settings in PD Howler, and this one is the RC7 of the new Galactic Raindrop version, version 2, Howler 2, also known as PD Pro 7 Howler. Not quite released yet, but very close, just a couple of days now. Anyway, you can see the fonts are fixed again. Well, we can't really tell here because we do have the Arial Narrow font installed now. So is that because we fixed it, or is that because we fixed it, right? I mean, we installed the font and we fixed the program. But let's do a side-by-side comparison of before and after, and maybe that'll just clarify what it used to look like and what it does look like now with version 7. All right, so here you go for the side-by-side comparison. I have the 4 different versions before and after. This one here is version 5, this is version 6 without the font, this is version 6 with the Arial Narrow font added, and this is version 7. When you do a side-by-side, you can actually tell it's not the same font it's using anymore, but you can also tell that it's been fixed. So here, let's actually use that for yet another little demo, and that's how to copy that. Right now I have it in my favorite image viewer, Irfan view, and I just use Control-C for copy, and then I'll do here Control-V, and that's a new feature right there in version 7. In addition to giving you the choice of either pasting it into the existing image or replacing the existing image. Let's have a look at what these do. This will place it into the current image somewhere there in the upper left corner. There you go. That's one option, right? And then the other option would be to Control-V and say, no, replace the existing image. But what if you don't want that? What if you don't want the image to be affected by what you're pasting right in here? Instead, one thing you can also do now is paste it into the current brush. Let's do that right there. Before that, we create a new image of whatever the default size is we currently have. Let's go with this, for instance. So we have an image here, and we don't want that to be affected by anything that we paste from the clipboard, right? So we go here, Control-C to copy that from the clip into the clipboard, and now paste it, Control-V. And this time the new feature is I would like to paste it into a new brush. Now, once you've done that, you've pasted it into the brush, but it didn't store it for you, and you'll really be advised to quickly do that. Store and manage it before you paste another brush or pick another brush into the custom brush placeholder. So when you do that, you'll have a safe copy. Well, not really totally safe because it's not saved to disk. It's in memory, but at least it's quickly accessible. And I have 3 of them already here, so I'm going to get the 4th one. This one's from PD Pro 7. Control-C for copy. Of course, this one here I'm running in the German version, Datei bearbeiten. You could go here and copy that somewhere. Kopieren, der Control streng und C, yeah. Copy that and then go to the image. Well, no, you see, this is where you make the choice whether you want to copy it into the image or copy it into the brush, and you can go through the clipboard and do that. But if you don't want to go through that additional menu, just do Control-V, and that's where it's going to ask you, do you want to put that into, paste that into a new brush. And then what's the shortcut for putting that brush into a stored placeholder? The double quote, right? So shift quote or shift where is it, double quote in my keyboard, and there you go. So now we have the 4 versions, and we could go to create a new empty placeholder, perhaps a little bit bigger, 800 by 800. There you go. And I'll click this brush, make sure we're at fully opaque. There you go. Make sure we see the preview. There it is, and put one here. And you know what? It's actually nicer with the whatchamacallit. So let's go enable that. That would be the post effects. Enable shadow. Let's make it a little bit bigger on that. 12 and 12 on a little bit more on the blur and opacity. I think that should be good. There you go. There's a little drop shadow. All right, so we got this one. Now let's go pick this one, and that'll be right over here. And then let's pick this one, and that's right here. And this one, and that's right here. So which one is which now? Well, we had over here. Let's go and stop the preview mode of the brush, so it's not in our way. Let's move these guys down. Alright, so over here on the left we have PD Pro version 5. Let's go and do a little placeholder for the text here. Make it a big square or a placeholder, and select the font pretty big. Let's go, probably 48 will fit in there. And since this was all about Arial Narrow, let's go with one of the narrow fonts, maybe the black oblique. There you go. And so this one was version 5. Actually, we don't have room for the 5, let's just call it 5. And apply this text. And then this one here will be, let's move this up a little bit, there you go, so we can read it. And then over here I'm going to do that again with show the text box again, but this time I'm going to say this one's 6 before, right? So 6b, or let's call it -6, right? -6, and there you go. And then we have another one here, and this one is 6+. This is after we've added the font. So 6+. It's of course the same version of Dog Waffle, of PD Howler, but it appears differently because we have fixed the font issue. We've added the font, and that would be here. And then the last one here, of course, is going to be version 7. Now I don't know if we went back to the same font, they look very similar that we had in version 5, but there we go. Alright, so here's a nice little family portrait of the evolution and revolution in different versions of the fonts that we use in PD Pro Howler in this case, and you can probably get a nice side-by-side comparison look here. If you look at the random hue, here the rand had disappeared because of the hue, the saturation, the value disappeared. Over here the position, the size, and the angle disappeared because we didn't know that the Arial font was missing on that particular computer. So that explains this whole mystery.